This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information. It is a Monday night as we kick off the month of November here on Coast to Coast Entertainment. Welcome back in, folks, to Coast at Night for a Monday evening, November 4th, 2024, alongside that man, James Gonzales from up in Oceanside, California. Yours truly, Callan and McClurg, joining you down here in San Diego. James, the days are really shorter now. I am nowhere close to being ready for this time change. It feels like it's 11 o'clock in the evening, not 10 o'clock with that time change happening on Sunday. I've been struggling and been very grouchy because of the time change. I'm sure you have too. But James, good to see you, my man. How are we doing tonight? Good to see you as always.
Same. Good. Man, you mentioned that, I was out and about today in San Diego, certain parts of it, and seeing that it was already dark around 4:35, I was like, wait, a week ago, it was still bright out. And you had people working, and you could tell they were like, oh, God, it's that time of year again. So it's something you got to, we all got to get used to. And then, my work week will start soon, and I'm going to see how that adjustment goes with it already being, lighter when I get up instead of darker. I'd rather have it darker.
And when James walks into work with a steel chair in his hand and a 2x4 wrapped in barbed wire on Tuesday or Wednesday, you know why, folks. But it is, though, folks, C2C at Night. Again, Callan and McClurg, James Gonzales recapping a busy weekend in the sports world, from the pros to the college ranks. And again, plenty of great stuff and plenty of great topics on the table to discuss on this Monday. But as always, folks, your input is valuable to the cause here on this Monday evening. So again, questions, comments, concerns, hot takes, cold takes, loony takes, off the wall takes, or generic statements you'd like to ask, again, fire away in that live chat box if you're joining us on Facebook, on YouTube, or on the Callan Max Sports Twitch channel. Again, we appreciate everyone's thoughts, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, on our program here. Esteeming as James and I truck along to 4,000 views here on C2C at Night. With that, James, in mind, we'll kind of, in a way, my man, go back about a week or so ago, a couple days ago, to kind of recap like a bit of a Cliff Notes version of the World Series recap in Major League Baseball. The Los Angeles Dodgers winning their 8th World Series championship in franchise history, thanks in part to the Yankees playing the Benny Hill theme song in that 5th inning of play, up 5-0, and then the wheels come off the bus. 5 straight runs, and then the Dodgers take the lead for good to win the World Championship in a very, I think, James, very surprising 5-game series over New York. LA winning it all for the first time since 2020, and of course the first regular season or full season World Series title since the '88 Dodgers did so with Kirk Gibson's famed home run in the Game 1 of the World Series off of Dennis Eckersley. And James, along those lines, though, man, like the ghost of '88 kind of came back to the forefront, though, the Freddie Freeman walk-off grand slam, and how the Dodger pitching kind of came out of the grave in the NLDS all the way through the CS into the World Series. And I think, James, it mainly, I think, feels like more of a botched operation at the hands of the New York Yankees. Now, I did, James, see a very ludicrous statement, I think, from a talk show host on KNBR radio in San Francisco, who only wanted to blame the San Diego Padres for giving the Dodgers the World Series. And I wrote back to one of our former disgraced co-hosts on this network, okay, that's cool and all that you can blame me in my hometown, but why not blame the Mets? Why not blame the Yankees? Why not blame somebody else just because San Diego loses after what they pulled in Game 2 with their on-field antics? That's the only team that gets the blame for LA winning it all. But at the end of the day, though, James, I think I'm more surprised that this was a 5-game utter domination of a series by the Dodgers. Yeah, they had the one-off game where Jack Flaherty got chased early with all the homers that were hit. They won the game being the Yankees 11-4. But then, though, James, I listened to Lee Hacksaw Hamilton in his first show back after he was gone last week on Monday, and Saw had a couple of pretty, I thought, good points that I even agree with, though, even before hearing his commentary, was Garrett Cole should have had 2 wins in this series. They should have won game 1 if it wasn't for Aaron Boone and his bonehead decision to bring in Nestor Cortez, who had not pitched in about 30-plus days, to give up that go-ahead or that walk-off slam to Freddie Freeman in game 1. Then he should have, I think, won game 5 if it was not, though, for his defense just coming unglued. Anthony Volpe makes a great play, though, but goes to third, doesn't go to first base for the for sure out. Then Cole and Rizzo have their blunder not covering first. But it all, though, James, goes back, though, to Aaron Judge taking the eye off the ball for just a split second and dropping that routine line out to center field. That really began the whole thing. And I think, though, James, was like a bit of a spiral effect of Aaron Judge bringing his at-bats to the outfield. Like I said, though, James, I'm a very big body language guy, and I've seen teammates. I've been in that spot, though, where you just can't seem to get it going at the plate. You take your overthinking from the plate to the field, and you compound the mistakes. And I think there was 3 bona fide mistakes right there in that inning. The Judge drop fly ball. Why is Volpe going to third base on that grounder hit in the hole? And why is Garrett Cole not covering first base? But, James, despite all that, here's something that's not been brought up by the national media, local media, whatsoever, but I'll bring it up here. How in the world does Aaron Boone not call timeout, send the pitching coach up to talk to Garrett Cole, send the infielders to talk to him? Why was there no conference to calm Garrett Cole down there in that inning where it's all coming unglued? And I think, James, that right there, that small little detail was more of a calamity that's not been talked about, but I'll talk about it right here. And I think any other team, James, Dodgers, Padres, Mets, when you're seeing your pitcher out there struggling, you send the pitching coach out there. You have the third baseman or shortstop go and talk to the pitcher, or have the infield come in and use a visit to talk to the pitcher. But to let Garrett Cole work through that, though, James, when all this is happening, the drop fly ball, the ill-advised throw to third base by Anthony Volpe, and then the miscommunication between Rizzo and Cole that led to a run coming in, how, though, does the pitching coach not go out there and have a pitcher-catcher-coach conversation, or yet then bring the infield in and have a full-fledged conversation that way? I think, James, that right there is grounds for Aaron Boone to be fired. I know that we said here 2 weeks ago it'd be a shame if one of these coaches or managers like Roberts or Boone lose their job based off losing the World Series. But I think, James, you look back at that 5th inning of play, though, and how the Yankees came unglued. I think that what's not talked about is Aaron Boone not going out there and sending the pitching coach out there or having the infielders go talk to him. How does that, how do you let that happen? I think any other team, James, in that situation, if that's Dave Roberts, Mark Pryor's out there talking to the pitcher, the infield comes in and has a conversation. That right there should equal Aaron Boone getting fired, in my opinion, though. But, James, overall reaction to the World Series, I think, James, we both agree, shocking result seeing it only go 5 in L.A., pounding in New York's brains to win their 8th world title just about a couple days ago.
2 quick things. Okay, I was listening to that game 5 with the Dodgers and the Yankees, and when that 5th inning was going on, I was there, cleaning up the kitchen. I was just like, what the hell's going on? Okay, but I swore I heard Susie Waterman. I forget her last name. I was listening to play-by-play for the Yankees and John Sterling, and I heard Susan mention Rizzo's out there to talk to Cole. So I maybe Boone just trusted Rizzo to go out there and talk to him only, because they always harp back to when Rizzo was the leader of the Cubs during their 2016 run. But maybe it's like, okay, you don't need to hear from the guy who just had the miscommunication with you. I mean, they were saying, I think A-Rod, after the game, was saying on the error by Rizzo, or whatever you want to score it, that there was some English on the ball, so he had to go wait for it. But Cole was the one who nonchalantly said, okay, this is third out, just go to the bag.
I don't
When
think
he should
Cole
have been
even got
covering.
like 10 steps off the
No,
mound. I think he was on the dirt still and may have taken like a couple of steps, but then just stood there like a spectator, and that's what he didn't. That's what you never, James, do in baseball. That is a cardinal rule, my man. You have got to be moving somewhere. So I think that play right there does get amplified, but I still think though. And I think, James, what Susie may have been referring to was that Rizzo telling Cole, my bad for what happened on the play. I still think you have to send the pitching coach out there, or the whole infield has to go talk to the pitcher in that situation.
that's so true. I mean, it's just a thing to get everyone together and say, hey, just record it out. Just take your time. No need to rush it. But yeah, Cole was walking toward the dugout, since it was going to be the third out, and it's just something you work on in spring training all those months
PFP,
ago,
baby.
and you just don't do it at the worst time. Okay, and then believe it or not, even though I had the Astros in the World Series, I said Dodgers in 5 before the season started. So I still feel horrible that LA won, but I feel good that at least the prediction of games was right for me. But I kind of wish it was the Astros who made it instead of New York. But yeah, going back to the recap of the series, I know I did on deck, and I went through a lot of it, so hopefully I remember it. But yeah, Freddie Freeman with the walk-off grand slam. I mean, there was no offense the first 2 games for the starting pitching, and so that was really good to see, because you knew for the Yankee lineup, you're not getting your best right now. I know Judge heated up at the end of the ALCS, but that wasn't brought into the World Series. Yeah, Flaherty did well, and Cole, Yamamoto after a while. But yeah, Freddie Freeman, once he hits one, it's gone. And right away, you could just tell that was gone. It was similar, like you mentioned, to the Kirk Gibson Grand Slam. I'm sorry, the home run in '88, the 2-run home run to win it. And then game 2, again, there wasn't that much offense up until a certain inning in the bullpen. So you figure, okay, it's 2-0, but I expect New York to at least get 1 at home, and they did. But it just came down to Freddie Freeman, who won the World Series MVP. In every game, he had an impact RBI or more RBIs. What was it? The Grand Slam, and then I think for 2 straight games, he had a first inning home run, a 2-run home run, I think. And then I think an RBI double in another game. So every game he made an impact. And I just think about his season that he had, right? Having his son have the syndrome and being away from the team, coming back. And then he has the ankle injury against the Padres in the NLDS. And you felt for a guy like that. You want to play the best of whomever they have. And the way that he came back and performed so well, and you didn't really know what to expect with him, and with his injury, it's just funny. Kirk Gibson had the hobbled,
the bad
ankle, bad knee. That's right, the knee. He was shivering it like a horse would, I guess, or his leg, like Vin mentioned. But then Freddie Freeman had his ankle injury, so the similarities just continue. So I was just shocked. I was like, no, I wasn't shocked, just because the Yankee bullpen was so inexperienced, and the last 2 games of the NLDS and beyond for the Dodgers, the bullpen was amazing. And I think what helped for LA, Clayton Kershaw could not ruin anything. That's what I take from that. It was like, hey, and he mentioned that too at the little rally at big rally at the Dodger Stadium, where he mentioned, I didn't even do anything, and he held up the trophy. It hurt seeing Ohtani get one, but I knew that was going to happen. It's probably the first of 3 in a row, to be honest with you. They're only going to get better. New York, of course, we'll talk about Garrett Cole, I think, later. But he'll be back, and then I don't think Rizzo's going to be back unless it's at a lower, price. their main stars will be there, but it's certainly a learning moment for all these Yankee players, especially the younger ones. You had who hit that the grand? I think it was a grand slam for Volpe
Anthony
in the
Volpe.
fourth game.
Yes.
And they just piled on in that fourth game. I think it was 11-4.
11-4.
Yeah. So it's funny just how baseball. It's a day-to-day game, and it humbles you. It gives you something great, and then it humbles you the next night. And that's what happened to Volpe and the Yankees. But yeah, credit to the Dodgers. Their pitching came up huge when they needed to, and they've been banged up all year long, but the offense just was steady all year long, and it drew well. I know that. And what was it, 18 million plus watched Game 5? It was steady, 15 million plus each game. So that was good for baseball. They needed that. I wouldn't be surprised if they met up again the next year too. I don't want that, but I know it would probably happen. So, yeah, the Dodgers earned it. They spent so much in the offseason to do it. And we'll talk about Soto later, but he was there in the dugout in Game 5, ready to hit with his helmet on, and he just was sitting there after the game, seeing LA celebrate. Yeah, just credit to LA. They did it.
Yeah, I think, James, I'm still just shocked. Again, I said it would be New York in 7 because I think we all wanted to see them go the distance because of how great of a postseason it had been. Both teams were obviously, the two heavyweight, champs of their leagues. And then I think it's just more shocking that the Yanks fall behind 3-0. They lose Game 1 in that fashion. Again, Aaron Boone brings in Nestor Cortez. Again, he had not thrown in like 37 days. Then Game 2 happens. They lose there. Then Game 3, going back to New York, they lose Game 3. Then they are able to at least, salvage Game 4, down 3-1. And then they literally, again, had the game in their hands. So then everything just comes off the rails in the 5th inning of Game 5, leading 5-0. LA comes all the way back to tie. They take the lead. They close it out. I think it's just more surprising, James, that it was such a, like a 5-game set. And again, I also think James, that the Dodgers did all this with not much production from Shohei Ohtani, but relied, though, on guys like Betts and Freeman who've had that playoff pedigree already at their disposal, where, again, Ohtani, first time ever in the playoffs, was kind of humbled in a couple times he got humbled, though, again, after that homer he hit against the Padres, in Game 1 of the NLDS. And then, he had another hit, though, in Game 4, I believe, maybe Game 5 of the DS as well, and then didn't really do a whole lot in the World Series, though. But every other player, though, had a stamp, put their stamp, on LA winning it again. Tommy Edman, last minute trade chip put in NLCS MVP, and then everyone else just kind of doing their job. But I think, James, this is more, I'm going to say it, though, and, you can say what you want, folks, but I still think this is more about the Yankees losing Game 5 than the Dodgers actually winning Game 5 to win the World Series.
Never know, but it just seemed like momentum. Either you believe in it or not. Two things, though. Yeah, Cortez, he threw the worst pitch possible you can to either Ohtani or Freeman. I know it wasn't against Ohtani, but middle in to Freeman or Ohtani, they love it there.
That's usually danger.
Yeah, he literally threw it right there, and I knew it was gone once he hit it. And then, what was the other thing with so me and Chris are talking about the bottom of the lineups for LA and New York, and then who would do well as the bullpens, and we gave each advantage to LA because the Yankee hitters weren't used to postseason play. Wells and
Volpe
and whoever else was down there. But the Dodger ones, they had old help from Muncy, from Kike Hernandez. Will Smith even had a home run in the game.
Gavin Lux,
Edman. Gavin Lux. Again, and then Tommy Edman, who they kept down in the lineup, but he still thrived. He was like a footnote, not even a big footnote, when it came to the trade deadline and that acquisition, because he was hurt. And it was like, okay, how are you going to fit him in? And he just fit in so well. And then I guess you got to feel for Gavin Lux. I think it was, 2-3 years ago, he left a spring training game, I think against San Diego.
Ripped his ACL.
Crying because he was like, damn, this is going to be the breakout year I'm going to have. And it was good to see him have a healthy year. And then actually coming up clutch with some base hits and RBIs in this World Series. So I guess I feel good for him. Mookie is now the only one in the league, the only one with 3 rings. Two with LA, one with Boston. He's the only player now that has 3 rings. And Freeman gets another one. Ohtani solidifies himself. Yeah, whatever. Credit LA.
Yeah, and with that, James, as we move away from the World Series, Monday officially began the hot stove season, my friend. Player free agency is now underway. James, there was some player movement, though, after the World Series ended, with the Angels shockingly making the first trade of the hot stove season. Jorge Soler, right fielder DH, going to Anaheim in exchange for right-hand pitcher Griffin Canning. Then I think, James, a day or two later, the Angels also signed a couple of minor league hands like Nick Noda, who used to play for the Athletics, and also a few other players as well. So, James, already literally a day after the World Series ended, the first kind of, shot was fired for the hot stove season. James, overall perspective, I guess, on this move by the Angel Ball Club. Obviously, 99-loss season last year, broke the franchise record for most losses in a single season. But now I think, though, James, Artie Moreno kind of, at least after a couple days, saying, hey, we're going to, try and spend our way back into contention. But overall thoughts on what Soler will bring to the table in Anaheim this upcoming season?
He's a shady left fielder. He's real shoddy when it comes to the defense. So, he'll be the DH mostly. I'm guessing if Trout goes to either right field or he's, going to be stubborn enough to continue to play center field. Or you just have Soler out in left. You move Moniak to center and Adele in right. It was funny, me and my girlfriend are talking about that because she's an Angel fan. Misery loves company, I guess. So yeah, the move is good because it puts some more power in the lineup, some veteran power. Remember, he won the World Series MVP in 21 for Atlanta. He was an All-Star in 23 for Miami, even though that's easy to do. He helped out the Royals in 2019 as well. He was a leader for them in home runs. I think he had 43 that year. But, it gives some veteran presence in the clubhouse and then also on the field and in the lineup. And then the 2 guys you mentioned, Ryan Noda, the former Oakland Athletic, I believe he was a first baseman, I want to say. See what he has left in the tank. And then another failed Philly prospect comes to the Angels. I don't want any more of that. But that infielder comes, Scott Kingery. People like the move, but I just want to see if he could maybe give Christian Moore some competition in spring training. The Angels' first-round pick this last draft. So that'll be, again, something to look at. And then Griffin Canning, because of injury and then poor placement of pitches and bad first innings, believe me, I think I've seen them all, with Griffin Canning. He was a great fielder. No doubt about that. He would eventually get his strikeouts later on in the game, but he would give up 5 right away. That's what it felt like. They were always behind when Griffin Canning was out there. It might be the best thing for him being traded to the Braves because you saw what happened with Chris Sale, the renaissance of his career last year, and maybe the Cy Young Award winner for the National League. So maybe Griffin Canning, you might see him on the All-Star team next year for the Braves.
Yeah, James, I think it's, it was interesting, to say the least, that like the day after the World Series, hey, we have a trade, and it's the Angels trying to upstage the Dodgers by, taking over the baseball headlines for the day. with them getting Jorge Soler from the Atlanta Braves. With that in mind, James, as well, I wanted to also real quick kind of go over the Gold Glove Award winners and also talk about the finalists for Silver Slugger Awards that were also unveiled. The Gold Glove Awards came out on Sunday. And also, James, 14 first-time Gold Glove winners were a part of the teams in both the American and National League. We will go through this real quick, folks. Over in the American League, Cal Raleigh of the Mariners won the Gold Glove behind the plate. Carlos Santana of the Twins over at first. Andres Jimenez over at second base from Cleveland. Bobby Witt Jr. at short from Kansas City. Alex Bregman of Houston over at third base. Stephen Kwan of Cleveland in left field. Dalton Varsho wins it in center field for the Toronto Blue Jays. And Willer Abreu wins it in right field for the Boston Red Sox, while Seth Lugo of the Royals won the pitching Gold Glove Award, and Dylan Moore, as the utility guy, won it from Seattle in the American League. Out in the National League, Patrick Bailey of the Giants behind the dish getting the Gold Glove. Christian Walker, his third straight one over at first base from Arizona. Bryce Terang winning it over at second base from Milwaukee. Ezekiel Tovar of the Rockies wins it over at shortstop. Matt Chapman of the Giants wins it over at third base from San Francisco. Ian Happ in left field from the Chicago Cubs. Brenton Doyle in Colorado also winning his third straight Gold Glove in center field, while Sal Frelick of the Brewers won it out in right field. Chris Sale on the bump for Atlanta winning it, and Jared Triolio of the Pittsburgh Pirates winning the utility man Gold Glove. So, James, 14 first-time winners. James, what names, though, on those lists, though, stand out to you, though, for Gold Glove winners? And I think if I had to start, though, James, another offseason of no Manny Machado in consideration or winning a Gold Glove at third base in the National League again.
You think Tatis Jr. should have got some consideration in right field? Or Jackson Merrill in center?
I think Merrill should have gotten more consideration in center. I think Fernando already winning the Platinum Glove, though, in right was good enough for me.
Okay. I didn't know that. Yeah, hey, good to see some new names.
Always good to see.
And they're always saying, hey, we have talent in Colorado. You just don't know their names because we're not winning. And this is the only time you see us in October and November. So, yeah, good to see Tovar and Doyle. They would always be, as you know, hassles for the Padres. Either
every damn time.
Seeing Milwaukee on the right side with Terang and Frelick. Frelick, I remember down the stretch, was making some great catches. I do remember that.
Yes.
Chapman was steady at third. This is all National League, of course. And Christian Walker, who's set to be a free agent, this will be leverage. He's always steady at first.
And that's with him missing time with an injury, too, at one point in the season.
That's true. So Christian Walker, he never changes his mannerism. He's always serious every time, all the time. You could just tell. And then Patrick Bailey, it's a good start for him getting the Gold Glove because who's going to run baseball operations is
Buster Posey.
So it's nice to see that. And it's always like a wondering thing what Joey Bart could have been is, Bailey, I guess, a little bit. And I didn't even know there was a utility position for the award, but
yeah,
good to see Pirate in there.
Ha-Sung Kim won it last season for the National League.
And I'm looking, at the American League, and I'm like, okay, there's no Juan Soto, and I think that's well-deserved. A lot of times, as, we saw in San Diego, he wouldn't take good routes to the ball, either coming in or going out or going to the side. Opposite of Jackson Merrill. He was so bad in right field. I know Yankee fans are mad at that, but to have a Red Sox win it too over him, Abreu, wow. And then Dalton Varsho with Toronto, they played good ball down the stretch when they kind of knew they were already eliminated in July or whatever.
Just decimated by injury, though, as we said all season, though.
That's true. But he played a great outfield. He was really good. Stephen Kwan is always steady there. He's amazing on both sides of the ball. Good to see Bobby Witt Jr. get his. Good to see Carlos Santana get his. Being as old as he is, and Andres Jimenez, the second baseman for also the Guardians. That guy was making great plays weekly. Like, I would watch some of the games or watch some of the highlights, and he was always making a great play. And instead, Lugo, I'm happy to see him do well. He got the pitcher Gold Glove there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But it's just surprising you don't have any, Yankees. You don't have any Dodgers in there, any Mets, any Padres in these. That was kind of shocking. But it's good for all these players that don't get the notoriety or they don't make the playoffs, or some who did for the first time, like Bobby Witt Jr., they get a little more notoriety going out.
With that, James, plenty of Mets, Padres, and Dodgers on the Silver Slugger Award winners that were announced earlier on Monday. These will not be made official until November 12th on MLB Network at 3 o'clock Pacific time. The candidates for Silver Slugger in the American League at first base is Vlad Jr., Josh Naylor, and Carlos Santana. Over at second base, Jose Altuve, Colt Keith, Marcus Semien, Gleyber Torres over at second base. Over at the hot corner, Bregman, Rafael Devers, and Jose Ramirez. Over at shortstop, Gunnar Henderson, Corey Seager, and Bobby Witt Jr. And then in the outfield, Jarren Duran, Riley Green, Aaron Judge, Anthony Santander, and Juan Soto for the Silver Sluggers in the outfield. While behind the plate, it'll be Yonier Diaz, Shea Langoliers, Salvador Perez, and Cal Raleigh behind the plate. And then for DH, it'll be Yordan Alvarez, Brett Rooker, or Giancarlo Stanton. Then utility-wise, Willie Castro, Josh Smith, and Jordan Westberg for the American League Silver Slugger team. Over in the NL, for Silver Sluggers, over at first base, Pete Alonso, Freddie Freeman, and Bryce Harper. At second base, Luis Garcia Jr., Jonathan India, Ketel Marte. Over at third base, Alec Bohm, Matt Chapman, and Manny Machado of the Padres. At shortstop, Willie Adames, Ellie De La Cruz, and Francisco Lindor. The outfielders are Jackson Chourio, Teoscar Hernandez, Jackson Merrill, Jurickson Profar, and Seiya Suzuki. Over behind the plate, William Contreras, JT Realmuto, and Will Smith. And the DH will probably be Shohei Ohtani over Marcell Ozuna. While utility guys are Luis Ariz, Mookie Betts, Jake Berger, and Brian Reynolds. So those are all the finalists for Silver Slugger Awards. James, what names stand out? I mean, I think Luis Ariz will probably be a shoo-in for being the batting champion of the NL, with him leading a league for the third straight season in average. But James, what names pop out here? Again, a lot of Padres, a lot of Dodgers, a lot of Mets, a lot of couple of Philly players in the National League. A couple of Yankees, of course, in the outfield and at the DH spot. But, James, what names resonate with you on the Silver Slugger ballot?
Yeah, looking at Luis Ariz winning his third batting title with 3 different teams, that's just crazy to think about. Stop trading him. Luis Garcia Jr., I'm like, who the hell was that? And I think I've seen him once or twice with the Nationals, so it's good that he gets some of the pub. And also at second base, I'm looking at Jonathan India. He kept getting into trade talks. Like, they were going to trade him, and Cincinnati never
stuck
did.
In that trade rumor mill for like the last 2 to 3 seasons, maybe longer.
Yeah, it's confusing, but I hope Freddie Freeman wins it for first base. Second base, I think it'd be good for Garcia Jr. just to get it started there with Washington. Third base, I don't know. Maybe Chapman or Machado was good too. Bohm seemed like he had a little off year sometimes, I guess. Willie Adames going to free agency. That would be a good thing if he got the Silver Slugger. I think he deserved it from Milwaukee. Yeah.
Leverage.
I'm guessing there's 3 in the outfield, right?
I would assume so.
Hernandez, Churiel, Murrow, I think would be my 3. Catcher, Riamuto and Smith didn't have as good years as Contreras. That was kind of a shocker. Shohei DH. Now I'm looking at the American League. A lot of Yankees in there, but I don't think it should be that many. First base, it'd be cool to see Josh Naylor win that. He had some really clutch moments. He's always the one that leads the charge in the dugout. Second base, be cool if Cole Keith won that. Player that wasn't even really known, but maybe Altuve will get it. Bregman, I guess, deserves it at third. Short, I would give it to Henderson. I think,
I might go Bobby Witt Jr.
I want to see Bobby Wood Jr. get that. I think just because the Orioles bowed out the way they did.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm switching that. In the outfield, you have to give it a Judge, I guess, even though didn't have a good postseason.
AL home run leader in the regular season.
Yeah. Santander going to free agency leverage. And then Duran, he had a good year for a bad team. Riley Green led the charge for the Tiger postseason. I'd rather give it to him than Soto. I know that. Catcher, I think Salvador Perez, he had a bounce back year, and that was great to see. I'd rather give it to him. Designated hitter, Alvarez is just a beast, but Rooker did have, I think probably the most home runs for the A's. Utility, I don't care about that. Whoever you want to give it to there. It would be good to see a lot of first timers and then veterans who won it before but haven't in a while, like Salvi Perez win his, I think.
So again, folks, Gold Glove winners announced. Silver Slugger ballot was announced on Monday. They will be having that award show coming up in about a week's time on November 12th. With that, James, week 9 of the NFL season officially in the books after a monsoon in Kansas City on Monday Night Football with an overtime winner for the Chiefs over Tampa Bay, and plenty of other storylines across the NFL, of course, James, involving firings of coaches, 3 coaches getting let go by your organization in Vegas. So with that in mind, James, here comes your slowest 5 minutes in sports to talk all things week 9 NFL. Go for it, James. What do you got?
What the hell happened? I didn't see the Monday night game, but I heard it was a good one. And believe it or not, they both had a great game against each other in college, a little shootout. Texas Tech and Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma won that game, but it was good to see that, I guess, happen again. I thought the worst would happen because the Bucks didn't have 3 of their starters on offense. But I was wrong about that.
Hats off.
Yeah, at least you could show that, hey, in a bad division like they're in, that they can hang in there. Started off Thursday Night Football. The Jets held on to beat the Texans. Jets defense came up clutch. CJ Stroud's kind of having a sophomore slump in a way, but injuries have derailed him. Stephon Diggs out for the year.
Diggs does not help the cause either.
Yeah, and Nico Collins is still out, so they're relying on Tank Dell, who had a big night, but it's not enough. Going into Sunday, the afternoon games, or the morning games out here at least, the Panthers held on by 1 to beat the Saints. Great. Okay, start off with the the Panthers that's a great divisional win. Anything can happen in a divisional game. But man, the last 24 hours plus for the Saints have just been self-destructive or destructive, whatever. So Dennis Allen is fired again by Derek Carr. That happened in Oakland back in 2014, I think it was, after they had a horrible year with the Raiders in Oakland. After a while, it seemed like the team quit on him, and the injuries just derailed the team too. Olave got hit over the middle, sandwiched by 2 Panthers. He was carted off.
Scary.
Yeah. I hate seeing that. Cameron Jordan didn't even want to walk to the Saints locker room after the game. It took Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara to get him. He was going to just walk out of the stadium. I mean, that's how deflating a loss to the Panthers was, even though they have the same record, as people on X pointed out. So good win by Carolina. Bryce Young needed that. He needed that win to happen. Speaking of winning, the Commanders 7-2 now. They held on to beat the Giants. Is again 5-point win, divisional game. Great job by the defense for Washington to hold on there. Jones was running really well for New York, but Jalen Daniels had enough, spreading the ball out. I'm just so happy for Washington, and he's no doubt the rookie of the year, at least for the first part. The Bills and Dolphins had a close game throughout. The Dolphins even led. I think it was 13-7, I think, at one point. But the Bills held on. It took a Tyler Bass 61-yard field goal in the wind to defeat Miami. So it was good. Credit for Miami. They're having a tough year, but it took the Bills that to win it. they were without 3 of their receivers too, so I think that's why the game was that close.
You mean to tell me a Bills kicker made a clutch field goal to win a game?
Wide left, or was it right? I can't
Wide
remember.
right.
Right. Chargers win in Cleveland. Great defensive effort for Chargers.
Still, though, Justin Herbert getting sacked 6 times in a game.
Actually, yeah, one of those sacks, he was literally, broken back, and it just looked. I think every game or almost every road game, he has a sack like that where he gets split in half. It looks like, but he always comes up popping up. He's the toughest quarterback out there, and as Hacksaw would say, I hope he goes 16-0, but
Spanos goes 0-16.
I love that. Credit to the Titans for holding on, but Drake May had a great play to force overtime, or at least get there with pinning the extra point.
And then a terrible pass to lose the game in overtime.
That's the problem. Is like you take the good with the bad. It's part of a rookie experience that they're having with Drake May and the Patriots, but at least you may have something there. Cowboys and the Falcons. I was so happy watching this game. Kirk Cousins continues to spread the ball out. They're doing well. But I think most of the focus was on the Cowboys and how they got hurt with Dak with his finger injury on his throwing hand in between the fingers there. And then he had a hamstring injury, which people were kind of questioning. He was out of the game. Cooper Rush came in. They kind of scored late. CeeDee Lamb had a shoulder injury. He's going to play through it. And I think that's commendable. Both got paid. McCarthy threw his tablet. It was just a disastrous...
Another day in the office with the Cowboys.
Disastrous Sunday. A time where you really needed Derrick Henry as the Ravens and Henry and Jackson have great days. Broncos held on just for a little bit. I think they actually led by 3 at one point, but the Ravens ended up winning big 41-10, as I knew. Speaking of winning big, the Bengals win their first home game, and they inch ever closer in that wild card affair in the AFC. They beat the Raiders 41-24. Started off well, like every game so far this year for the Raiders, where they strike first. Now it's the rest of the quarters that really matter.
Minutes of gameplay that they can't seem to finish the job.
I was trying to remember the time of possession before the Bengals got the ball first, but that's all that really mattered. I mean, they were giving up points left and right. Joe Burrow threw for 5 touchdowns. Very easy day for Cincinnati, and that usually happens with the Raiders. The Raiders make some moves after the game, and a day later, a buck short. Lou Getsy is out as the OC. Never was supposed to be here. And it was one of the reasons, I think, why Devontae Adams was wanting to be traded away. Getsy was known for throwing screen passes with Justin Fields in Chicago. Saw how that ended up. And, Adams is a big play receiver downfield. You knew it was just never going to happen. I mean, it was always Antonio Pierce going over to Getsy saying, like, what the hell's going on? Please change up something. Like, please expand your playbook down the field. Never, ever happened, other from the first drive of the game. Then I think 2 other coaches or 3 other offensive coaches were let go. And then the horrible news I heard, or the rumors, was like, hey, we're going to bring Norv Turner and his son possibly to run the offense. I mean, Antonio Pierce, he's running out of his cards in Vegas. I mean, what do you call those cards they play that are cheat cards for poker, or 21 or whatever? I can't remember. It's in the old Stilly. It's in the old Stilly dance song, where you play your magic cards, and you get them under. Well, anyway, Pierce is running out of those. He's more of a cheerleader than an X's and O's guy. That's why Marvin Lewis is on the sideline, and Marvin Lewis.
Everything's fine. Everything's okay, James. Go Raiders, baby.
No, it's not. If you're a real fan, or you're a what do you call it? If you're a realist, you know that it's a continual thing. And I was just thinking about this yesterday, how the Raiders have played 2 playoff games since 2003, and it was in 2016-17 and 21-22. That's been it. Everyone else has had their fun, and it's pretty deflating. Like, pretty much for all my teams, it's like I can't even rant about it. I don't. It just, they keep trying new things, but nothing works. It's like change has to start from the top. I hate that Tom Brady owns a percentage of the team now. Okay, whatever. The Cardinals defeat the Bears 29-9. The Bears have now fell to what, 4-4. They're in last place in the NFC North, and it only gets tougher for them because their schedule is a gauntlet going forward. The Cardinals at 5-4 in first place in the NFC West. Who the hell had that?
The Cardinals.
But I'm so happy for damn it, what's the coach there? Anyway, I should know that. But yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. is hooking up with Kyler Murray. I remember that was a problem at first, but they're hooking up now. And then Trey McBride, their tight end, is doing well there. Just great to see that for the Cardinals, who had no expectations the last 2 years. You know, ever since that wildcard game in 22, they haven't been even relevant. And Murray,
Jonathan Gannon.
That's his name. Thank you. Jonathan Gannon. He was, of course, with the Eagles as the offensive coordinator. Shane Steichen was a defensive coordinator. They both left after their Super Bowl appearance, and that'll parlay to the Eagles game, and they held on despite Sirianni. Sirianni kept going for two-point conversions. It was just the weirdest thing. He was getting the Jags to get penalties so they can move up and go for two instead of the extra point. And it could have cost them the game if they didn't have a red zone pick. They hold on to beat the Jaguars 28-23. I thought if the Eagles blew out the Jaguars, Doug Peterson would have got fired on his homecoming, but luckily for Doug, that doesn't happen, at least for this week. The Rams, I'm so happy for them. They get another win. I think it's 3 in a row. They go to Seattle in overtime to beat the Seahawks 26-20. Robinson had a tremendous one-handed catch to win the game in overtime. Stafford had time and let it go. I was so happy for the Rams winning that game, just because you don't really know what they're going to be this year. But you feel for Seattle and Geno Smith, where his mistakes come up just so unclutched, let's just say. And then the defense is so young, and they're just showing the growing pains right now. It's really tough for Seattle. They've lost, so many in a row, I can't remember. The Lions went to Green Bay. They won 24-14. That was the Fox game of the week. It was in horrible conditions. It was raining all day at Lambeau Field. But Jared Goff, he wore the gloves, and it didn't derail him from holding the football and throwing the football. He's had perfect passer ratings the last few games. He's just been amazing. He's probably my MVP so far this year. Fair. It's like Lamar Jackson or Jared Goff, either 1A, 1B. For the Packers, though, and Jordan Love, he leads the league with interceptions. And I think we have to have that talk about him where it's like, luckily he has the bye week, but maybe he shouldn't have started that game. Just thinking about his unmobility that he has, and then the conditions, and then his decision making is really, really off right now. I hope it's not a thing where like, hey, I got paid, so I don't have to, prove myself. I hope it's not one of those things. But Lions just keep going, and then they host the Sunday night game. Oh no, I'm sorry, they go to Houston on Sunday night. That would be fun. Speaking of Sunday night, it was a bore fest. Ugh. I don't ever want to see the Colts in prime time ever again. They thought Joe Flacco was going to help things, but he was just as bad as Anthony Richardson yesterday. So the Vikings won 21-13. Their defense did the job, and then Sam Darnold late came on strong to get the win for Minnesota. And then, of course, the Monday night game I didn't see. The Chiefs won 30-24 in overtime. I think DeAndre Hopkins had a touchdown in that game. in a, like you mentioned, it was a monsoon Arrowhead Stadium. But credit to the Bucks, they were without their two best receivers and then their speedy backup running back. But it was good for Baker Mayfield to show out at least and make it seem like they have a chance to win this year. So I give him all the credit with his 2 touchdowns. At least they did that. And Auden had a touchdown. He's probably their main weapon in Tampa Bay right now, at least through the air. Mahomes had 3 touchdowns. Hunt had a running touchdown. And DeAndre Hopkins had 2 catching touchdowns, receiving touchdowns, and then P-Line also had a receiving touchdown. So they have reinforcements in Kansas City. And everybody's talking about the Lions. Everybody's talking about the Ravens. But the Chiefs are the only undefeated. I think at what, 8-0? Yeah, 8-0. So they're still the top no matter what. You gotta kick them off the ledge. Whatever. That's it.
With that, James, I want to stay in the NFL real quick. And again, you mentioned about Dennis Allen getting fired after the game on Sunday. Again, Derek Carr and him having prior history in New Orleans about a decade or so ago. James, with one casualty now on the NFL head coaching block, who's next?
I always thought Doug Peterson. Oh God, I don't want to say. God damn it! Who's the Giants coach? Brian Daboll. I want to say. I don't want to say him because I feel like a lot of it isn't his fault, So I don't want to say him, but I think that the way the Bears showed out yesterday, and then what happened last week with the Hail Mary going against them, I think Eberflus is the next one on the hot seat, and depending how the schedule of a gauntlet goes for them, I think it will tell them what they need to know about the team and if they're going to really play for him. Stefanski for the Browns, I think that's the next one. McCarthy's going to go all the way in the season, so I don't think Jerry Jones is going to make that move in season. Antonio Pierce, I think they'll just go the season with him. I think he had another year on his he has another year on his contract. But my guess, I don't think he'll make it. The 2 I don't want to see get fired. I think Sirianni's okay, but we'll see in the playoffs if he has a horrible decision. I think maybe he'll get fired. But the 2 I don't want to see get fired. Well, 3 would be Brian Daboll, but the other 2, I feel like Mike McDaniel for the Dolphins. They've been banged up all year. Tua's in and out, and he's trying to get a hold of the locker room. You have so many egos and personalities in that locker room, and it's just really tough for him. And you could just tell it's weighing down on him. I think those were maybe the 2 that I don't want to see get fired. You don't want to see anybody get fired. And then even Zach Taylor, I think with the Bengals, where they are coming back though, so maybe they'll see that and they'll say, okay, we'll give you after next year or after this season, we'll give you another year. But yeah, the next one to get fired, it's between Eberflus or Peterson for the Jaguars.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that that Peterson, James, even still has a job. And I think I've said this a couple times, though I don't watch the NFL product, though, is that I really feel like, though, Doug Peterson's kind of lost his luster since winning the Super Bowl in 2019 with Philadelphia. Like, he's gone elsewhere. He wrote the book, and just doesn't seem like, though, that his voice is being respected like it once did in certain locker rooms. And maybe Jacksonville's kind of been that way, though, James, where, we brought up 2 weeks ago about how Deshaun Watson got hurt. Trevor Lawrence doesn't play great all after getting those big guaranteed money contracts. But at the end of the day, though, I think that Peterson's probably more likely to get bumped out. I really wonder about Antonio Pierce, though, James, only for the fact or notion that here the players advocated. They wanted him after they had the strong finish to last season. Now all of a sudden, James, this feels like, JB Bickerstaff with the Cavaliers. The players have now kind of, in a way, turned their back on AP during this season. I think I read a report on yahoo.com. Here's the top 5 targets for Max Crosby if they, in fact, choose to trade him. Like, they're already trying to dismantle this team. And I do think, James, Matt Eberflus might be on the hot seat, too. Like you said, though, if the Bears, lose out here, I don't see how they can retain him, especially not the Hail Mary loss to the Commanders, but I just think, though, that Eberflus was not the right guy from the word go in Chicago.
Yeah. The problem is, too, with Chicago, they've had so many different offensive looks, playbook-wise, and that always confused Fields. That's always been an issue there. Who'd you mention? And Pearson. Who else?
Peterson and then
Peterson.
AP.
Yeah, with Peterson, that kind of happened with Jalen Hurts his rookie year, where they didn't start him because they wanted a better draft pick, and that led to his firing with the Eagles in 2020. It's just weird with the Jags too, because they were like the Texans, where they had their one shining moment, and they're all young, and then they're having a sophomore slump, and it's just continuing. And even though the Texans are winning, that could still all change with the injuries and self-destruction. With the Jags, it's sort of the injuries, but then it's just Lawrence making bad plays. The defense is solid, but it's just a mix of all these things. With Antonio Pierce, freak. Jeez, where do I start? Yeah, what was that? Week 9 against the Giants last year. The players love him. The new voice is in there, other from, Josh McDaniels, who nobody liked or listened to. And you feel like, okay, we have something. But the way last season ended, not scoring in too many games as much, and then the fun was kind of gone once the season ended. You come into this season knowing that Devontae Adams wants to leave. You didn't trade up to draft a quarterback. You have 3 quarterbacks and none of them are any good. Abundance of injuries, but every team has them. It comes down to a point where your rookie tight end's the best player on the team, on offense at least. I don't think Crosby will get moved in tomorrow's deadline. It would shock me if Detroit pulled the trigger, and he still has years left on his deal too. So the Raiders better get something back if that happened. There's young talent on this team that never really showed up as well. Young draft picks, I should say, high draft picks. And then Pierce, talking about him in his perspective, like I mentioned, he's really a raw cheerleading guy. It's all about yelling Raiders and all that. And, smoking cigars in the locker room after a win, which I knew would come back to haunt him and the team. And then having the players make fun of Patrick Mahomes or Kermit the Frog in training camp. There's no discipline on the team, and it's just a Raider thing. And him being a Raider fan, I don't think helps it. I know he was a good, coach elsewhere, but you have to know the X's and O's. And then you have, as a head coach, you have to make those tough decisions. And you can't repeat the wrong decisions. The 2 games in LA, they had 4th downs where they needed to go for it because they were down 2 scores late in the 4th, and they didn't. They punted or made a field goal. Those little things tell you, like, hey, they're scared to make that move. Like, AP's scared to make that move. They have a great staff around them, with Patrick Gammon, the defense. And then you have Marvin Lewis as a helpful assistant with the Raiders. And Tom Coughlin's a contributor. But I just don't think he's the right guy. He rallied the players last year, but now it's becoming like football Siberia in a way. Mm-hmm. And I just hope that Max Crosby doesn't get traded, but you might as well see what you can get for him and others. and again, just start over with Shadur Sanders or someone else at quarterback. But you need that Jalen Daniels type of quarterback starter. You need someone that'll revamp the franchise, or Mark Davis sell the team and then fire AP, whatever it takes. And it feels like a broken record. I've been saying this since Oakland, where we just need some consistency. And the only thing was Derek Carr. And he wasn't consistent on the field after a while, but he was always a starting quarterback for years. And then once he was gone, it's been a revolving door of quarterbacks. And Minshew you can't trust. Desmond Ridder is not a starter. So they just need a redo again. They need a renovation again in Las Vegas with the Raiders. And AP probably needs to go. My thing is, I don't think they'll do it during the season. I think they'll wait till after the season. It's almost like a substitute teacher in a way coming in. It can only last so long, the good vibes. Eventually the kids are going to turn on you. And that's all the Raiders have, is just a bunch of kids on their team.
Yeah, and I think that maybe the karma of last season, they had that upset win over the Raiders. They came into camp, kind of talking a lot of garbage. And again, the Kermit the Frog puppet ordeal at training camp, and all that kind of being spurred on by the head coach, and stuff like that. Yeah, maybe it is the Raiders falling on karma times. With that, James, to the NBA. Early in the season, though, but already, James, drama brewing in Philadelphia. The Sixers were already popped $100,000 under the Callan and McClurg Memorial Player Participation policy, with both Paul George and Joel Embiid both not playing the first 5 games of the season due to recurring knee injuries. And also, again, though, James, the very somewhat in a way a stunning story, but maybe not stunning, but very somewhat in a way disturbing story of Joel Embiid getting into a physical altercation and shoving a Philadelphia Inquirer journalist over the course of the weekend when he had an article written about his son and his dead brother and about Joel's not playing to start the season. James, what's your overall perspective, I guess, on how the Sixers have gotten off to the start that they have, though, and mainly, though, James, it's all the off-the-court nonsense here, between Paul George and Embiid not playing, the first fine of $100,000 for the player participation policy being violated. And, of course, though, James, Joel Embiid getting into a physical spat, though, with a reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer over the weekend.
See, this is why I have issue with, your reasoning how Adam Silver's a good commissioner and everybody else who thinks he is, where they're letting the players run everything. And you're seeing the way it goes. And that's not the only situation it's happening in. It's Clippers with Kawhi. It's other places too. But the situation with Embiid, real quick. For a reporter, I know what he was trying to do. Where he was saying, well, Embiid said he's going to play for his brother who passed away in the car accident. And he's going to play for the city of Philadelphia. And he's going to be the heart of the city and the heart of the team. And by sitting out these first games, he's not showing it and announcing it before the season started too. It's all bad timing. It's bad on both parts and the Sixers as well. And it's just not the way you want to start a season. I think Chuck mentioning last week where it's like, he's not even playing the back-to-backs. And they mentioned he's not going to play the second of a back-to-back, but he's not even playing the first part. So
he's already missed the first, 6-7 games of the season?
8.
8 games of the season?
7. No, I'm sorry. Yeah. It will be 6. Paul George will come back tomorrow against the Phoenix Suns, I think, and then we'll play Wednesday against the Clippers. So they're 1-4. Now, I haven't watched a Sixer game all year long just because I know that Embiid's not playing, so I don't think I want to watch him. But when you just rely, I think, on Tyrese Maxey, that's really tough on his shoulders. Remember, he had a breakout year last year, being the second focal point of the scoring to Embiid, and now he's the only one up until tomorrow. So that's really tough for the Sixers. Yeah, with Embiid, though, he definitely wears his heart on his sleeve, and we've seen him be emotional before to his teammates, to opponents, to the media as well. He had what was it, on Friday night or Saturday? He had a press conference about everything, and he was I think it was Friday, where he was talking about how the city and the fans are turning against him, how he thinks it's BS. Realize what market you're playing in. Realize the fan base, and realize how the way last year they hated the Knicks fans taking over Philadelphia and then beating you in the second round of the playoffs, I believe, or maybe it was first round. No, it was first round. So you got to remember who you're playing for, what market you're in, and you can't say certain things before the season and during it. It's a thing where the players need to take accountability. Again, it goes back to the worst commissioner in professional sports right now, where he's letting the players run it. David Stern would never allow this. Would never allow players just sitting because they want to, because it's the first part of the season. That's why you have that candy ass, NBA Cup, because they want the first part of the season to mean something. You have like people talking like it's the greatest thing, and it's not. It's just a ploy to have these players play, and it really pisses me off in a way. And it goes back what I heard on Tuesday or whenever it was when Barkley was talking about. I think it was Thursday, but anyway, talking about how like, hey, we have actual like jobs that people have and they don't get days off, like a nurse, a doctor, firefighter, police officer, teachers, and all the BS they have to go through on the daily. And you have these NBA idiots that don't want to play a game just because they fear maybe an injury is going to happen, or they just don't want to play the beginning of the year. And they make so many millions off of other people who spend maybe their hard-earned money, maybe not some who sit down low. So it just pisses me off. It's the worst market you could quit on. That's what I think of. But yeah, the reporter, though, it was in bad taste, but I understood what he was going through, going about it. And Embiid, all the players now, they take everything so personal. They're so soft, like everyone is. So you just knew something was gonna happen. And I understand all the sides of it, but it shows you just how much the Sixers, and maybe Embiid just got extended too.
Yes.
So it's like he's not going anywhere. He might want to trade out. Imagine that. But if he's doing this now, how can you depend on him later? I would understand if it was like, hey, if he was on his free agent deal, then he wouldn't sit out. But maybe if he had like 2 years left on a deal, they would actually explore trading him. But I don't think they're going to trade him. They're going to try to work through this again with him and Embiid. When he played, it was like, okay, why are you so soft? Why are you not going inside and getting buckets like you should be? Why are you just hanging outside by the 3-point line? That was the first thing with Joel Embiid and his unaggressiveness to get inside and score. Everybody was pleading with him like, hey, you're freaking 7 whatever. Get your ass in there and score. And now it's this where he's not even playing. So it's just bad all around for the Sixers and the NBA, because it could mean a lot more down the line.
James, before I give my thoughts, do you at all think, though, that Joel's participation in the Paris Olympics and then him coming back to the Sixers and him not playing is part of the reason why it's been a flashpoint in Philadelphia with the fan base?
Didn't LeBron James and AD play in that, and they seem to be okay? And they're older, by the way. I think the Celtic players, they shouldn't be taking off any games because they didn't really play in the Olympics. And I think maybe you could say, hey, well, Steph Curry got hurt, off of a ankle injury against the Clippers last Sunday. Maybe that's a caution that I think that was just a freak accident. But Embiid, like, I remember him playing the Olympics, and it seemed like it was he didn't seem too tired off of that. He needed to come out and say that right away, though. It was like, hey, because I played in the Summer Olympics, I'm not going to be as good, or I'm not going to play right away. And And then what is it? The Sixers got fined $100K because they were lying about his status.
And then, him and George didn't play the first X amount of games, but then they got fined for it.
Yeah, it
First
just
offense.
feels like they were just hiding something, and they just need to come out with that right away and just say, "Hey, it's a long season. Blame Popovich for this, but we have to worry about later on in the season and not play right away." Which again, it pisses me off because it's like, oh, Jordan and Kobe would never take off, and they played in the Olympics and they were fine. But yeah, look at LeBron, right? Like he takes care of his body. He hasn't had a bad injury, but he's what 40 something, 40, and
22nd year in the NBA.
yeah, and he played in Olympics just fine. He was the leader in the game in the Olympics. They won the gold because of him and Curry, but you don't see them taking off games yet. You know, and it just again it just goes down to privilege and wanting to do something and not wanting to do something. That's why I feel like with Joel Embiid.
Yeah, James, I'm in like 95% agreement with you, though I still will defend my in-season tournament and all that good stuff. It's for a different time and place, though. However, the drama in Philly is obviously not the headlines you want in the NBA season, regardless if it's Game 7 or Game 77 of the season or Game 81, heading down the stretch run towards the postseason. However, I do think, though I understand, and this is about what happened over the weekend with Joel and the reporter getting into the shoving match, is like I get both sides of the story. Like, I get Joel's frustrated though by not being able to play of whatever the rehab is though. And I get though that we in the media, and I say we loosely, but we being, thank you for pointing at me. Yes. That
You,
we
not
we
me.
over but yes, we over here have a job to do. But I don't care what market you're in, whether you're in San Diego, you're in Los Angeles, or you're in Philadelphia, or you're in San Angelo, Texas, or Mobile, Alabama. There's lines you can't cross in journalism 101 or on TV or radio. Now, I know it can be viewed as this or viewed as that, though. You don't drag anyone's family, star athlete, the GM of the organization. You don't drag people's, family members, their kids, their wife, their spouse, their partner, any of that. You do your job by covering on the court. Anything happening off the floor, as I always say, doesn't count on the scoreboard. That's not going to win you games. As I said a couple times back in August during the Olympics, is that, when I had talked about some stuff involving the NWSL and stuff, someone's sexual orientation, for example, isn't going to win or lose you a game on the scoreboard and stuff of that caliber. But regardless, James, it's a sidebar story that the Sixers do not need to have happen. I think Nick Nurse has been handcuffed to start this season. Paul George and Embiid not being able to play. And then, of course, the fine comes down for the first offense of the player participation policy. Regardless, though, James, like I said, I kind of get Joel's frustration about what the reporter said, view it as him being soft, though. But I would hope to be in that, I would hope, though, that if that was said about my brother, or if it was vice versa, where someone was saying stuff about me and my older brother found out, that he'd be there shoving reporters and shoving people or knocking their lights out. Because, like I said, worry about the games. Don't worry about, and then dragging in people's family and, their kids into a story involving Joel Embiid playing basketball. That has no bearing on what the Sixers are trying to accomplish. I just think, though, that when that line gets crossed, though, stuff like this comes out, though, and I don't know, James. I just feel like, though, keep it to the on-court or the on-field play. Don't be making this about people's families or people's kids or people's wives.
I remember, I think it was the first year at Golden One Center with DeMarcus Cousins and the Kings. I think he confronted a reporter, and they had this on camera, where he was talking about, I think, his brother. And he wrote something the reporter wrote something in the column, probably for the B, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But it reminded me of that just now, where it's like we've seen this before. Yeah. Again, I understand both sides, but it's like I wasn't thinking about like again, you're the media, not me. So yeah, I understand like the barriers, you can't go over them because the athlete, the one who's physically fit, you are, but they are too. But they can pulverize you if you say something about them. And Jokic's brothers, remember,
Yes.
they're ones not to mess with if you ever say something about them too. So just know they have brothers, or they have memories of brothers that will get at you if you say something wrong. It's just a bad time. What needs to happen in Philly? They need to go on a long ass winning streak right now. They really do, because they're at the bottom of the standings, or second to the last.
And that, James, leads me to our next NBA talking point is surprises and maybe panic meters. We did this for the NHL 2 weeks ago. James, surprises for me. Let's start out East first. Cleveland, incredible start, 8-0 on the season. Little bit surprised, and I think, James, maybe some panic. Though I think we could say Philadelphia, screw it. Give me Milwaukee, because we said this during the NBA preview 2 weeks ago, that Doc Rivers may be the wrong guy. Giannis, of course, maybe, a player mutiny. We said this about Cleveland last season. Maybe Milwaukee is turning, their back as James takes a sip to maybe get a coach fired in the Eastern Conference. But, James, where would you probably say for the Eastern Conference? Surprised by Cleveland, 8-0 start. They've been very hot. Celtics, 7-1 to start the season. And then after that, James, it's bad.
Yeah, I was looking. I didn't even know the standings. I just looked at them now, where it's like, hey, you got this Cavs and Celtics, and then
wow, 3-3, 3-3, 4-4, 3-4, 3-4, 3-5, 3-5, 3-5, 2-4, 2-5, 2-6, 1-5, 1-6.
This is the Eastern Conference I grew up with, because remember,
this is the Eastern Conference at its absolute finest.
Yeah, because like you had Jordan the Bulls, and then you had
crap, and then everybody else.
Yeah, you had, when there was only 8 teams going in each conference to the playoffs, you had at least 2 or 3 teams that were under 500 that would make the playoffs, and this is how it feels like it's
now
going
here we have 2 more because of the damn play-in tournament that I don't like.
Yeah. So yeah, the Sixers and the Bucks are both the good surprises is only Cleveland. Maybe the Bulls at 3-3, but there's so much going on. Ball got hurt again. It's a hand injury, I think.
Oh, good. At least it's not the knee.
Yeah, but he needs to be out there, and that's what kills it. But really, everybody else is just bad. And the problem is too with the Magic, how Pancaro is going to be out for a little while.
Oh man, when I heard that news, I'm like, damn, that just ruined. It feels like, in a way, James, kind of ruined Orlando's chances at this early stage of the season.
Yeah, they're going to have to come back from that, and
already 5 games back of first place. And we're only in the 4th day of November.
Yeah, but they'll still have time, because that division isn't going anywhere, literally. So, yeah, I guess Cleveland would be only the surprise for me, man.
Yeah, Cleveland for sure. New coach, and kind of right now the players have bought in, I would say. But I think, James, I think the panic meter is, I think panic a little bit in Philly, but there's more panic in Milwaukee, man, with Giannis and those guys. And one really does wonder, though, if Doc Rivers is on a ticking time bomb and that he's going to get fired. I mean, I really think so.
Yeah. He took over
mid-season
at the All-Star break.
Yeah.
Remember, because all of a sudden he became the All-Star head coach, because he led the league in wins for the East. They should have gave it to the second guy, not take over for Adrian Griffin. All of a sudden you become the All-Star coach. That's just stupid. Anyway, yeah, it could be a mix of things with Doc there. And again, like I always mention when I talk about the Bucks, it's like how Lillard, it just doesn't feel like he doesn't want to be there. When you get traded from somewhere you've been since 2013 or 2012, 2013, like he was in Portland, you kind of knew, like, he would have a hard time somewhere else, and it's kind of showing. Um, the injuries kind of derailed him too. Chris Middleton, you're wondering if you're ever going to get a good season from him again. I really doubt that. And it just sucks. And they paid him too to stay. So that really sucks for him and the Bucks. And part of it could be Doc Rivers, and then Giannis having such a hold on the team and decisions, I think, too. That's also a big deal. And they paid him as well. There's a picture.
Kind of feels like LeBron running the Lakers now, or kind of like maybe how Kobe had a lot to say when he was with the Lakers.
Like, if you don't do this for me, I'm going to want out.
Maybe
And that's why
Michael
they
Jordan
extended
with the
him.
Bulls.
Yeah. That's what, again, goes back to the players having too much control. And the coaches not having any, even though Doc is a respected head coach. I saw this picture and it didn't look well. It was a Milwaukee. It was late in the fourth, and the starters were sitting. Like, everybody was sitting on the bench, but Giannis was sitting on the floor, on the sideline, and that was kind of like, okay, I've seen this before.
There's a disconnect there.
Yeah, where Isaiah Ryder was sitting on the sideline with the Hawks, and he called out all the players later. Kobe with the stare at Mike Brown. Mike Brown gets fired. There's little incidents like that where it shows more than that picture. 1,000 words can't handle a picture like that. So yeah, Milwaukee's definitely the disappointment so far.
James, how about out west? One of your conference preseason champs are 7-0 in Oklahoma City. Phoenix and Golden State are 6-1. Houston, Dallas, the Lakers, Timberwolves, and Nuggets, and the Kings are all 4-3. Memphis is 4-4. Clips are 3-4. Spurs are 3-4. Blazers 3-5. Pelicans 3-5. The Jazz are 1-6. James, I don't really see a lot of eye-popping surprises because we talked at length, though, about how the conference would be. Again, we had Oklahoma City, we had Denver, we had Minnesota being in the top 3, top 8 of, top 8, top 10. James, any surprises? If I had to pick one, James, I would probably go with Houston.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of their games, but the fact that they're over 500 right now is good. For me, because Curry got hurt last Sunday, and the Warriors had a great win. Was it Tuesday against the? It was Tuesday against the Pelicans at home, at San Francisco. They didn't have Curry, and the young guns of the Warriors just ran the Pelicans off the floor. And the Pelicans, they were without DeJounte Murray, but they still had Zion. They still had Brandon Ingram, which he's in a free agent year. He just looks disinterested. He looks like he wants out. But the Warriors, having all those young guys playing, and then you add in Wiggins and Green, that's a shock that they're at 6-1 for me. That's my biggest surprise, and it's really good because everybody was wondering, without Klay Thompson, where the Warriors would be. Would they be in play-in team, or would they not even make it? The fact that they have a better record leading into that Warriors Maverick game next Tuesday, I want to say, or if things hold up the way they are, I think that's good for the Warriors to have that going into that game with Klay coming back. So yeah, the Warriors are my great surprise.
James, I think it's a little difficult to pick a team who should be panicking in the Western Conference. And I kind of think everyone's kind of where they should be right now. I would probably say, James, I really can't pick one who's panicking, but who would you probably go with?
Pelicans. I really believe that. I think Ingram is holding the team down. He's not being as aggressive as last year, where he had a great All-Star year. You have to, again, wonder about Zion. If he wants to be there, is he going to get out of shape? So yeah, I would go with the Pelicans because of where they're projected to be. They finished, I think, 6th last year, and they were supposed to be, again, we're only 8 games in for them, but they could get back up there. But the West is really, really tough. I mean, you go past the Spurs at 11 with the Clippers, and then you have just a great 11. And the Pelicans are supposed to be in that. So eventually somebody like the Rockets will have to fall. I'll tell you one thing. Maybe the Jazz. And I know they're a weird bunched up group where they have Marketing, John Collins, Sexton, and just a bunch of young guys as well.
1-6 on the year.
I was hoping they would have get off to a great start, just because it would lead to some type of confidence. They had I think, a decent year. They were supposed to be like this last year, but they finished the year strong. But it looks like they're just regressing. It looks like they're never going to get free agents, of course. So they have to make trades like they did for Collins, or they're going to have to be good with the draft. But you could just tell they're missing a lot in Utah. I think people are more focused on the hockey club than the Jazz. The other club.
In the club, baby. In the hockey club, baby. With that in mind, James, we'll go to the aforementioned NHL now with the season in full swing as of Monday night. James, two of the biggest old guys in the league are still going strong, my man. Sidney Crosby sits only 4 goals away from 600. And of course, though, James, Alex Ovechkin of the Capitals now is 34 goals away from Wayne Gretzky's all-time NHL goal-scoring mark. James, it's been so fun watching these two guys play the last, 20 years, it feels like. And I was thinking about this, though, sitting in studio today before leading up to our program. And this really struck, and this thought really came into my head, though, about Sidney Crosby with the Penguins and Alex Ovechkin with the Capitals is this, to me, personal opinion, kind of feels like the Larry Bird Magic Johnson player rivalry that the NHL needed in the early 2000s. Now, James might wince at that, but I look at it, though, about coming out of the most recent lockout back in 2004, 2005, and maybe the tomfoolery about the Penguins leaving Pittsburgh and the draft lottery got rigged for Crosby to go to Pittsburgh and not go to Anaheim. Then Ovechkin goes to the Capitals. Again, they had some decent runs, but never were a very, respected franchise. How these two players, James, single-handedly turned around the Penguins organization after post Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr back in the 90s with their dynasty to now the new dynasty with him, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, Chris Kunitz, for example, between, the late 2000s into the 2010s. Their rivalry with Detroit in 08 and 09 and them winning championships there, them going back-to-back in the mid-2010s. Then Alex Ovechkin going to the Capitals. Again, they are notorious for having the worst record ever in NHL history by overall record. I think they won 8 games in their second season as a franchise over 50 years ago. But then Ovechkin goes there, and they have a lot of great playoff success, but never did Ovechkin have that trophy in the trophy case until 2019. And every time, James, you'd always hear whenever the Pens play the Caps, Crosby, Ovechkin, Crosby, Ovechkin, Crosby, Ovechkin. To me, this really feels like a modern day hockey version of a Bird and Johnson from the NBA. Though I know you may say, "Oh, what the hell are you talking about?" Look at what it's done, though, for the NHL again, James, coming out of that most recent lockout in 2004, 2005. What Crosby has done with Pittsburgh. Again, I think they've won 4 championships when he's been with Pittsburgh. And then Ovechkin, all the goal scoring records, all the highlight reel goals, all the playoff appearances, all the other hardware. But it wasn't until 2019 when he got that first championship. So, James, maybe your overall thoughts about just seeing two players, though, in their prime, maybe past their prime in Crosby and Ovechkin, still chasing greatness, 19, 20, 21 years deep in their careers. And maybe, James, if these two players maybe save the NHL at one point in time coming out of that lockout in 04-05, in your opinion?
It was 2 things you answered for me, or maybe 3, but it was how many cups does Crosby have, which you said 4, right?
Yes, I believe it's 4. I'm going to double check, though.
And I didn't even know. I thought he maybe just had 1. And then you mentioned the worst record ever. For some reason, I never looked it up, but for it to be the Capitals, I'm shocked. And then I think when Ovechkin got there, they still had those like blue and black uniforms, I'm guessing,
Eagle.
right? That's what it was, because they had footage of him maybe when he was young, like scoring these highlight goals, and ESPN was really looking after that. I do understand now your Bird and Magic comparison, just because of, I remember the '04 lockout of hockey.
By the way, James, real quick, Crosby, 3 cups in Pittsburgh.
That sounds right. But the lockout in '04, '05, I think it was, right?
Wiped out the full season.
We were wondering, how they were going to get hockey back, and everybody hated Bettman. I think he's more likable now. They got rid of the game ending in a tie. I think that really helped things out. And then what's the rule about the offsides? They kind of let it. They had a new
loosened it up a little bit, and they also got rid of the 2-line pass rule too.
So all those things made the game run freer. I feel like, I only watch playoff hockey. I should watch more, but so yeah, with Bird and Magic, the NBA finals were still on tape delay. It was coming off a crazy
college arenas,
late '70s decade where there was parity, but there was a lot of fighting going on. The game wasn't as smooth, and then you had playoff games at college campuses that went on till about 1984 with the Mavs playing the SMU. I think that was the last one that I remember. But and it's funny, I think a couple of days ago I was out walking around and I was thinking to myself, okay, try to name as many hockey players as you can. And those are the first 2 that came up. Anyway, I see for Ovechkin here, he has his first star of the week. He had a 4-game goal streak. And I remember last year we were talking about him, trying to get the goal record and how he had a tough time getting up and down the ice. I think that was what I remember.
How did he just look like he was snake bit when it came to scoring?
And then he wasn't able to get the passes, and when he did, he would make, an effort to shoot, but it was just off. I think it was a microcosm of all those things happening, probably. But the fact that he's on pace again is good. He scored his 858th 4 days ago, or 859 2 days ago. 860 on Sunday, so he's on his way. You said 34 away, right?
34 away from tying the record.
And then with Crosby, I was always wondering when he would retire, but
37 years old entering the season.
Oh, he's got 3 years left. He's at 597. He's the only one that I can name other from number 71,
Evgeny Malkin.
I remember those 2 just based on jersey sales. I know he's not the only one that'll have a milestone, I think, for that's not his only thing. He also has, I think, 1,013 assists. I know that can come up. That would tie Joe Sakic for
Joe Sakic with Quebec and Colorado.
Yeah, I remember him in Colorado for 13th place all time in career assists. Of course, I'm reading this. Assists with one franchise. Crosby is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's 6, or he will be 6 all time if he gets that. So it's good to see that. And I don't even know what the hell this is. Even strength goals. He's 4 away from tying Teemu Selanne. So he's getting up there where the big names are. And this is all that I would have to say, but has he missed years, or has he had years where he's had an injury that, wiped out seasons for him? I feel like he's maybe he had some years where he wasn't playing as much.
If memory serves me correct, I think Crosby missed time when he broke a jaw. I want to say, maybe not early in his career, but somewhat in a way, during his early time. I think when Mario was still kind of playing in the mid late 2000s, or when he first became a Penguin. I think he may have had a jaw problem. I think Ovechkin's kind of in a way stood the test of time. I think he's probably had some injury woes though, but for the most part, I think James, both these guys have kind of in a way been healthy for their entire career.
And Has anybody compared Crosby to LeBron, just the way their careers have gone? Or there's still time left for Crosby to? I know the where they stand right now, the Penguins are 5-7-1. But have there been comparisons like a LeBron in his time to these two?
Not that I can recall, but the whole thing of like Bird and Magic came to mind when I was in here doing some work for the show. And when I was putting together the rundown in the afternoon, like, why does this to me feel like the Bird Johnson rivalry, or the rivalry that has elevated the NHL to what it is now, when you look at when these two guys got drafted, kind of coming out of that dark cloud of the lockout of 04-05 in that time frame?
Yeah, so that's all I got. I'll be since it's in my Google history now. I'll be checking into that.
So again, folks, Sidney Crosby looking to get to career goal number 600. Alex Ovechkin 34 away from tying Wayne Gretzky for the NHL all-time lead in goal scoring in NHL history. With that in mind, James, over to the college ranks, my friend. College football came and went over the weekend. James, how about some FBS updates, my man, including a nice win for USC over the weekend? Or a tough loss, I should say, in Seattle.
It's like they never win anymore. Yeah.
If it's not Big Ten opponents, they don't win.
Man, I think they lost 26-20. I think they had the lead and blew it. I know Lindell White on X aired out Lincoln Riley, where it was more about him being the cash cow, but nothing's changed. Mm-hmm. He just came from a time where USC was kings. That's the problem. I guess I'll start off with I think the Friday night game in Boise. Jane T had a great game, and then they destroyed San Diego State. I think at a time it was like
thanks for showing up, fellas.
And I just knew that was going to happen. In Boise State,
it was 35-10 at halftime. I turned the game off.
Yeah, and good man Trent Rush, I think, was doing the broadcasting of that game.
Yes, he was. I'm like, why do I know his name? Like, oh wait, that's Trent Rush from Angels Radio. Holy cow! Him and Petros on FS1.
Yeah, they do those Friday night or Saturday night Mountain West games. One team I think that everybody is one college that is kind of overlooking, because I don't think they played anyone that big yet. Miami of Florida, the U. I don't want to jinx it saying they're back, but they're fourth. They're undefeated. They're fourth ranked. They destroyed Duke. Duke never had a shot in that game. The Saturday game of the week, or big game Saturday, whatever they called it. Gus there, of course. I love that. Ohio State beat Penn State. Ohio State goes to 3, or stays at 3. Penn State went down to 6th ranked. It was 2013. Ohio State held on.
And not that, James Franklin's now 1-10 in his career against the Buckeyes.
Just about to mention that. And I think he has a bad record, too, when it comes to playing top 10 opponents. It seems like Penn State, they've never been all the way back with him, but the standard was supposed to be that. And he's not at Joe P's standard yet. Or that will never happen there. I know fans are criticizing his looked like the fan who was, it looked like he was a better. He had like an old Italians guy, tracksuit on or whatever. But some idiot kid was yelling at James Franklin about a play or a decision. So all is not happy in Happy Valley. Army held on to beat Air Force. Army went up to 18th ranked, so that was great to see. And Ole Miss, I'm telling you, I'm so surprised by them. I hope they could get in somehow. But Lane Kiffin's turned that program around. Has been a couple of years.
Who would have thunk it?
You get out of the shadow of like LA and Nick Saban, and you're just by yourself. You take a tour of like South United States, and you feel free, and you learn the moments. I think you learn the lessons from your times before, and I think Lane has finally grown up, I think. But anyway, Ole Miss goes to 16 ranked. They destroyed Arkansas 63-31. Vanderbilt is back in the top 25. They go to Auburn and beat the Tigers 17-7. Good to see Vandy back in after 1 week absence. What's his name? Hurston, the coach at Auburn. He also has a horrible record, the same one as the previous coach, and then they fired him. Michigan will not be ranked again this year, as I mentioned. Number 1 Oregon went there and stomped them 38-17, so that was good to see. Iowa State, I'm surprised they're actually still ranked, but they're 17th. Texas Tech went in there 1-1. Florida-Georgia game played in Jacksonville. Georgia won 34-20, but the issue was Carson Beck. He had his third 3-interception game this year, and that is alarming as hell. Georgia is number 2, but when it comes down to playoff time, that will be a big key there. Kansas State, they go to 22nd ranked. They were higher, but they lost to Houston, who has one of the worst offenses in the FBS. Or is it FCS?
FBS.
FBS, it is. But they lost by 5. Indiana, I'm so happy for them. They went to Michigan State. They're number 8 ranked now, and I'm happy for the Hoosiers. They do have a big test coming up with Ohio State, I believe, coming up. Louisville beats Clemson. Clemson went all the way from like 10-19 or 9-19. They fell down.
10 spot. Damn.
Yeah. And that takes them out of the playoff race, of course. Number 15, Texas A&M, or they are now. South Carolina ran them over. I mean, that was a shocker. They had those idiot kids trying to get over the bush that prevents them to storm the field. And a lot of them were getting stuck in there like cartoon characters. It was horrible. Tennessee beat Kentucky in that state rivalry by 10. Tennessee is stuck at 7, which is fine by them. They haven't been ranked this high in a while. And then Pittsburgh lost to SMU. SMU has an explosive offense. They're number 13 ranked now. Pittsburgh's still 23rd ranked.
And SMU now is on 1 spot outside looking in on the top 12, which, by the way, folks, quick footnote before we give it back to James. First CFP rankings of the new 12-team playoff will be unveiled tomorrow on Tuesday, 4:30 p.m. Pacific time on ESPN.
So Oregon got the 62 votes for first place, or first ranked. Georgia second, Ohio State third, Miami of Florida at 4th, Texas back at 5th, Penn State 6th, 7 Tennessee, 8 Indiana, BYU finally in the top 10. They went to 9, Notre Dame at 10. They've awakened. Bama's at 11, Boise State at 12. I don't know if Boise State will ever get past that. It would take Alabama losing out, maybe.
You'd have to have the whole top 11 lose a game somewhere, or someone stubs their toe in the top 11.
Yeah, so SMU at 13, LSU hanging around at 14. But yeah, I think the great surprise is still, you still have Army at 18. In the Pac-2, you have Washington State at 20. Colorado keeps moving up. They have those late Saturday games.
And they're bowl eligible. How about that?
Yeah, it took some time, but they have a great program. It's led by Coach Prime. So they're 21st. Kansas State, luckily, is 22nd, but they're starting to decline just a little bit. And good to see Louisville at 25. I was always hoping they would kind of make a run there, but Illinois dropped out, as well as Missouri. They were 24 and 25th, and now they're out of it. They probably won't get back in, just like Michigan. So some important games coming down to the wire for the season, and eventually you'll have an NFL-style playoff for college football. And I'm really interested to see the home games for those first games of the playoff system.
With that, James, from FBS to the FCS top 25 for games played through Saturday. Again, not much change in the FCS top 25. North Dakota State remains number 1 with 43 first-place votes. Montana State with 13 first-place votes is number 2. South Dakota State, UC Davis, and South Dakota 1 through 5. Southeast Missouri, Montana, UIW, Idaho, and Mercer come in 6 through 10. with Rhode Island, Villanova, Richmond, Tarleton State, and Abilene Christian coming in 10 through 15. Central Arkansas, Stony Brook, Illinois State, UT Martin, and William & Mary 16 through 20, with North Dakota, Western Carolina, Chattanooga, Harvard, and Duquesne 20 through 25. Others who receive votes from the top 25 include Jackson State, North Carolina Central, Eastern Tennessee State University, Northern Arizona, Stephen F. Austin, South Carolina State, Dartmouth, Drake, Southeastern Louisiana, Tennessee State, and Southern Utah, all getting votes in the top 25 for FCS football. And locally, USD football clobbered Davidson on Saturday, 40-13 at home for their fifth straight home win. Still looking for that elusive first win on the road, though, at this rate. With that, James, we'll move over now, man, to our off-the-board segment for this one night. Again, this is where we get to talk about a couple of topics or topic that was not discussed on the show tonight. James, over to you first. What do you got?
Nothing right now. I'll let you go first.
I think what I can say is that last Sunday, the reason why, folks, we took the following or the previous Monday off was I had a whale of a travel day coming home from my own city, coming home on Sunday night from the new beautiful Front Wave Arena in Oceanside, California, up in James's neck of the woods in Oceanside, which is about roughly 45, 50 minutes north of where I live in the city. To check out the brand new arena that was built for the San Diego Sockers, my old employer for 11 years of the Major Arena Soccer League. Also is now home to the San Diego Clippers of the NBA G League, and also now the San Diego Strike Force of the Indoor Football League. Some third-party vendor named Fan Club puts on a off-season all-star game tournament, or games, I should say, for the Indoor Soccer League. And this was the first event for indoor soccer held over the weekend at the new arena. They've had concerts at the new arena already. They've had Simone Biles and Team USA come through on the Gold Over America tour. They've had concerts. And the first actual sporting event that took place away from gymnastics was the Fan Club International Cup tournament game that was played at Front Wave Arena. It was also highlighted as well by the MASL having their draft combine over 3 days as well at Front Wave. I got to go and be a part of the first ever game between Team USA and Team Mexico. Plenty of indoor players across the league. Played a couple of legends like Brian Quinn of the USD Toreros men's soccer team, our head coach, legendary soccer player here in town. Also played for Team USA. It was a great game, 4-3. Team USA won, and we had about roughly, I believe the official attendance was like 3,900 people, I want to say, for a 7,500-seat building. High majority of fans rooting for Team Mexico, though, of course, what else is new in San Diego? Beautiful arena, but again, though, James, really cool to be a part of the event. Again, I got a phone call week of the game from one of my old bosses. They were wanting me to, ask if I could do the game. I'm like, absolutely, I'll be there. And they were, I think, a little bit stunned. I'm like, I don't have anything else going on today, and I want to be the first guy to announce a game for indoor soccer at the new arena. Beautifully built. And I know it's a little bit of maybe a bit of a travel concern getting up there, where it's located, parking, public transit. Beautiful beautiful arena design by the team involved with Front Wave Arena, from my old bosses of Sean Bowers and John Green to Mary Beth Hughes, Melissa Ratliff, and the rest of the gang that I had worked with for 11 seasons. And I think, James, and I know there's been a lot of, talk about the arena and stuff, but man, beautiful. It's a beautiful venue in general, small enough to accommodate the sports tenants there, again, of indoor soccer, minor league basketball, indoor football that's going to be played there. Perfect spot, I think, for some concerts. Again, I know that Bones Thug and Harmony played Monster Jam for Jam and Jam in 95.7 the night before. But, James, really beautiful arena. Again, you're going to enjoy going there for Clipper games for the NBA G League. But it was cool, James, to be a part of a new arena opening. I've never been a part of a arena actually opening for business. I was a part of the first games played in the Jenny Craig Pavilion after we had renovated it at USD, and then we had the very cool donation from Baker Electric to sponsor the playing court at the Slim Gym, and we have the new video boards put up, the new sound system, and stuff like that. But to be the first voice of a sporting event for the main tenant of the Sockers, my longtime employer of 11 years, and to be first guy behind the mic, brand new arena, brand new chapter for that franchise and for the two new teams going there. What a blessing, what an honor, man. It was a very fun night, and the crowd was thoroughly invested. The energy level from kickoff to the end was phenomenal. And again, I think I give everything a very well done, clean bill of health. And again, a major salute, though, to Phil Salvaggio, Sean Bowers, John Green, Mary Beth Hughes, Melissa Ratliff. Again, everyone I've worked with the Sockers for 11 years on making that dream a reality to, kind of in a way, add adding a new chapter, I'd say, for sports in the county here in San Diego.
Yeah, I'm wondering how that's all going to go. I should be at the first Clipper game coming up on the 8th.
Hope
And
to be there with you.
yeah, man. I think on the 10th as well, I'll go. But yeah, I'm interested to go just to check it out. I've only seen highlights. And then I think the Clippers had a scrimmage today against the South Bay Lakers, whatever they had on Instagram.
Closed door scrimmage, it looked like, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was cool seeing that. Again, I have FOMO for 2 events right there so far. The not only the Bone Thugs concert, but then when the actual LA Clippers came here for a preseason game.
Oh, yes.
I was out of town for the concert, and then I had to work until 9, so there's no way I was going to get in for that Clipper game. So I'm having FOMO, and that's going to be erased this week. I hope. What topic do I have? I just hope it works out there. That's what I hope. There was something I was going to mention, and this goes back to Dennis Rodman and his career rebounds against each team in one game, and just the amazing work he did, in rebounding. That's all he, that's what he focused on mostly, I should say. His career high was 34 against the Pacers, and his career low was 19 against the Raptors. And I just think about that now, because when you see big men like Karl Anthony Towns, Joel Embiid, when they only have like
Rudy
7...
Gobert.
Well, I think he gets his rebounds, but when the other guys, when on defense, and maybe it's just so many 3-pointers being shot and then it's long rebounds. Maybe that's a thing. But it kind of hurts to see that. And then you see a record like this where I just love it. I guess I want to go for a media topic because you're here, of course. Because we already talked about the reporter from the Philadelphia Inquirer, talking about family, when it comes to Joel Embiid and not playing for his brother who deceased. And I mentioned the DeMarcus Cousins issue with a reporter talking about his family. Keep your family out of your mouth. But have you ever experienced any sort of incident where maybe it was you or a reporter with something, athlete, they didn't like a question they asked, or something like that, where something was written or said and a reporter confronted a reporter about it, or a staff worker or something like that? I wondered, all the years that you worked in the business, have you ever seen anything like that?
Thankfully nothing involving me, which is good.
Well, you're good though. You know the line. You never overstep it. You're morally good. So I figure you won it.
I'm trying to think. I feel like, and I may have touched base on this, James, a couple years ago, maybe. I don't know if it was on. It may have been on. I think it may have been on PR a long time ago. And I think I remember that during my first season as a third-party writer for the San Diego Wave of the NWSL, something, I don't know if it happened after a game or if it was like a couple days later, but I took offense, though, to a story that was put out by the Union Tribune, the local newspaper, where the writer had written a match preview in a way where the Wave were playing the then named OL Reign, who is now the Seattle Reign of in Seattle. And for some reason, the reporter wrote something of like the last meaningful football game in Seattle involving San Diego, Seattle was the Chargers Seahawks in like 2010. And the Chargers got their ass kicked. And I'm reading this, I'm reading this story. And myself, like, why in the HE double hockey sticks are you even why bother revisiting old trauma of the NFL leaving this market? We're trying to, put all that in the rearview mirror. But sure, let's compare the American version of football that Callan McClurg does not like to the global version of football that everyone knows and that knows very well. And that was more of like where I took offense to it. Now, nothing happened though from like team PR stuff, but like personally, I took offense to that because like, come on now, like you really can't be comparing, apples to oranges that way. But like where it got to like a shouting match or physicality coming to the forefront, I've never seen it mercifully. I've been a part of a lot of press conferences with, coaches, players, before games, after games. I can say, James, from my experience when I had covered the Wave or the Seals, it never got that way. They were very gracious of their time. They would thank us repetitively for the job that we would do to give the team some publicity. But yeah, the whole thing though, with like DeMarcus Cousins, even KD and Stephen A. Smith, I think had something go down on Monday morning too of like,
Really?
You're a clown. No, I'm a clown. You're a clown. Shut up. We're all clowns here. But no, in 16 years in the industry, though, mercifully, knock on wood, nothing that I've seen come to fruition that involved, anyone getting punched or people getting shoved with a reporter who had, was doing their job. But I just mainly took offense, though, when I'm reading this soccer preview involving, last time there was a meaningful football game in Seattle, Washington, the Chargers played the Seahawks. Like,
yeah, it has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, tell me how that will help the Wave beat the OL Reign for the first time in club history at Lumen Field. Give me a break.
Yeah, had nothing to do with it. I don't care about location. That's a good one. So, yeah, I shouldn't even ask the first part where it was like, have you? Because, no, you're not that type of guy. So I love whenever, we watch the Hacksaw show, he'll talk about, experiences in locker rooms or something he
For
said
sure.
maybe controversial. And it's always like a professional sport. It's always with those egos and that money. I think that's why you have those there and not in the minor leagues of sports. Okay. Funny, not funny, but kind of Nostradamus by me in a way. Where, remember I messaged you, I think it was like 3 Sundays ago. I was going by the Snapdragon Stadium and the Wave game was on later on that Sunday night. And I was watching the game and I noticed the turf, the grass was just terrible. And I messaged you right away. I'm like, what the hell? And the Aztecs aren't even in town. And the same thing happened, I think, with the Aztecs weren't in town. They were in Boise on Friday. And there was a Wave game that was supposed to be played here in San Diego. They moved it to Cincinnati against, I think, Louisville against FC Cincinnati, right?
No. They were going to play Racing Louisville at Snapdragon. But where James is going, though, Friday night, a statement got put out by the Wave and then confirmed by the NWSL, confirmed by Snapdragon Stadium. The field was deemed unplayable because of the week prior, James. And I think we saw this If you watched that SDSU Wazoo game on the 26th,
I didn't.
It literally looked like it looked like someone had taken bunker style dirt from a golf course and dumped it on the field at Snapdragon Stadium to fill all the divots of the usage. And then the Wave said it was on, and then the UT actually, James, had a very alarming story that I read on Friday or Saturday from Mark Ziegler that read in part, this is the 6th time in 2 years since the stadium opened up they've had to change the turf and change the grass. And Mark said that leading up to Friday into the weekend, FIFA's governing chapter here in San Diego, so they have field officials who walk. They always walk around the field. This is even when the referees show up for a match, though, too, collegiately, even in the pros. What happened was there is what I believe happened here. Some big emergency meeting was called Friday when the announcement came out, and then the FIFA chapter here got involved and said, you can't play on this field. There's too many divots. There's too much sand. There's, this and that, this and that. So then the Wave make that announcement on Friday. Then the stadium, James, I don't think they had to, but they put a statement out too. And it was a weird thing. They blamed the weather.
Yeah.
Then they blamed State playing the week prior and not enough time to overturn, put in new grass. Then when you read the newspaper story, this is the sixth time in 2 years they've had to change the grass. That right there is not good. And then, of course, James, as we said on here 2 weeks ago, now you have Major League Soccer coming to San Diego. But what I also read, though, James, San Diego State fumbled this from day one. They have a third-party grounds crew underneath the Oakview Group ownership who has opened up, who redid Climate Pledge Arena for the Kraken. They built the new arena for their affiliate in Coachella Valley. They run and operate other stadiums and arenas around the world. They have just kind of in a way just botched the whole operation, and that they're looking at alternatives for new grass. I know that the Wave looked at playing at Torero Stadium at USD, but we already were booked for. I think we were booked for an event, I believe, the day prior for our football team on Saturday afternoon. Would not have been time to get take care of that. They looked at Cal State Fullerton Stadium, and they were already booked. And they just ended up playing the match, which they ended up winning on the road 3-1 on Sunday in Louisville at Louisville's home stadium. But, James, it was a nightmare. And I know that you were planning on going to the game on Sunday, but it was a nightmare. I think the Wave did a pretty decent job to have the watch party at Front Wave Arena. But still, man, and I think a lot of the fans said it right, though. And I think Kalen Sheridan, the starting goalie, said it right. For a very difficult season for the team, though, marred by controversy off the field, with the lawsuits that we talked about a bit here, that I've talked about on Press Row, the dismal season, a lot of, rumors flying around about the firing of Casey Stoney. Why did Alex Morgan retire early? Was she forced out by the front office because of how the team was playing? Just a lot of things, James. And for them, though, to rally, get a win, though, and kind of close this chapter of 2024, what a relief for those players, man, to get that weight off their shoulders, despite what had gone on, though, on Sunday here locally.
Yeah, credit to the team for going on the road when they weren't supposed to and win. That was great to see. Or hear about. And I was hoping you would have a lot of information, and you answered all the questions for me. Because after Saturday, I didn't follow up because I was just so just disappointed, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I believe that Mark Ziegler's commentary, James, said that there was like at least 25,000 tickets put out for the last game of the regular season at home.
Sheesh. And then, yeah, just like you mentioned with the MLS coming, you can't have that. That's like MLS. You can't have Messi come in here in a messy field. You cannot have that. And, all the other, clubs that will come for the home schedule in 25. And then to hear that it's a third party fielding crew, that is just despicable. That's being cheap. That's not taking care of your home field, taking care of your assets in the biggest and best one in the city, in the county. And it's just disturbing. And it's just funny. Me, who doesn't watch as much as you and others, saw the field and say, hey, they should get that cleaned up. The Aztecs weren't home. What's the excuse? And then they go out and say the excuse. And they weren't even playing, and that was a week ago. For the San Diego State. So, yeah, they better get that all cleaned up and put in better shape. And when I was watching that game 3 weeks ago, it kind of reminded me of like when they have Monster Jam at Petco Park. Some spots were that dirt clamped all over the field. And I wish I saw the Washington State highlights because I can only imagine for football how bad it gets, especially down the middle of the field in the hash marks. But to add soccer into it, like I remember playing on fields that were pretty bad because they were playing soccer and football.
Right.
But that was like high school. This is the actual like professional leagues or college leagues, bigger and supposed to be better. And it's just a bad look on Snapdragon, San Diego State, and whoever else, but not the Wave. Definitely not the Wave.
James, one more off the board topic. It just came back to me. Is that the Baseball Hall of Fame also unveiled the ballot for the era committee to vote on, which will focus on the classic baseball era prior to 1980, which will include Negro League and pre-Negro League stars. This ballot, James, is loaded. Dick Allen, Ken Boyer, John Donaldson, Steve Garvey, Dave Parker, Vic Harris, Tommy John, and Louis Tiant are all on this ballot. James, I really think, man, I think all 8 of these guys probably get in. I really do.
Okay, so I'm looking at the list now. And again, it's so damn unfortunate Louis Tiant passed away when he's put on this. And that was, like 3 weeks ago he passed away, a couple of weeks ago?
Very recently.
That's just, again, horrible timing. But for me, and I know Steve Garvey's number is retired here with the Padres because of the 1 home run, but I feel like his number should have been retired with the Dodgers. And when that happens, you get in the Hall of Fame. It's like the Laker thing.
Right.
Other from Fernando, but that was cultural. But I feel like Steve Garvey should have been in. He has all those all-star appearances, has a World Series championship with the 81 Dodgers, took the Padres to 84. I feel like he should have been there already. Dave Parker, he was my mom's favorite player back in the day. And I think just because he didn't have consistent years and he ended up bouncing around, I think that hurt him. But the way he went on the scene with the Pirates, helping them win in 79.
So we are family Pirates, baby.
Having the big, strong arm in right field. I think he was lazy at some point. I think that hurt the sports writers' thoughts of getting him in.
Fair.
I think eventually he'll get in. Dick Allen, I've heard stories of, smoking cigarettes in the dugout, but he always produced. He was always a quiet person. You know what I think it comes down to as well is the relationship with the sports writers back then who controlled everything. Now, that's all thrown out the window because most of the sports writers are gone, or some are still alive and they don't really know what's going on. But Tommy John, I know he had like a 25-year career, 24-year career. I know he had some good years, but all because of the surgery. It's like, do you put him in at least as a contributor? Maybe that would be the case. I heard the other day that they were talking about having another type of Tommy John, but calling it something else, another surgery.
Interesting.
They're coming up with something new. John Donaldson, Kim Boyer, I don't know, Vic Harris, I don't know those guys, but
those were all either Negro League or pre or post Negro League stars of that era of the game.
If I had to put 2 in, I'm putting Garvey and Parker because they were always in the All-Star games back in the day. And they're also the 2 biggest names. Louis Tiant, I would have to go back and see his career stats. I know he was part of the 75 Red Sox. But I know he pitched for the Yankees as well, too. He's one of those guys that pitch for both. But I would put Garvey and Parker, and then maybe Tommy John as a... I don't know. I think you give more credit to the doctor. Was it James Andrews who did it?
No, it was Dr. Frank Jobe, I believe, who did the first Tommy John surgery. Yeah,
that's it. I think that's where everybody goes or used to go to was Andrews, who I'm thinking of. But I don't know. Who would you put in based on the guys I mentioned with Tiant, John, Garvey, and Parker?
Garvey and Parker for me feel like shoo-ins.
Mm-hmm.
And probably Tommy John, honestly. I would probably think Tiant, though, too, with his numbers and accolades. I think those would be my 4 guys.
Yeah, I'm good with that. And Dave, I forgot Dick Allen died in 2021. I think he was misunderstood back in Philly and Chicago. But Garvey, a 10-time Hall of Famer. He was like Captain America for a while, Apple Pie and Steve Garvey. Parker, 7-time All-Star, 3 Gold Gloves, 3 Silver Slugger Awards, MVP in 78, and 2 World Series. He won one in 90 with the Reds. I forgot. I'm sorry. No. Yeah.
Yes.
Or 89 with the 89 with the
A's.
the A's. Never mind. I'm right. He was with the A's in the 90 World Series. Yeah, because of the earthquake, and
yes,
you see him at second when they're doing the highlights of the game before. So I should have got that. He won the All-Star Game MVP in 79. Played 19 years. Had 339 home runs. And that, I think that's also a thing that killed chances back in the day. They were more worried about milestones than impact.
They liked round numbers back then.
Yeah. And that's how I still do things. But then you see who went in, last Hall of Fame. It was Joe Mauer. Beltre didn't get to 500 home runs, but he had 3,000 hits. So, okay, that's a shoe-in. But how does like Todd Helton get in or Joe Mauer get in? They were pillars for their franchises. So I think maybe it comes down to that now, where it's like, okay, if they were the best of at that time of that franchise, you put them in now. So not saying it dumbed down, but it feel like it did, the Hall of Fame voting process.
So we'll see what those results will be, folks. That ballot will be formally unveiled in mid-December on MLB Network. All right, James, with that in mind, my friend, we've gone over our 2-hour time limit into Tuesday morning. My man, final thoughts for tonight's program or what?
Catch us for another 2-hour show next week. Hopefully not. Hopefully I can stop talking. Yeah, just check out all the C2C programming. I know Friday I'll be gone. But there will be no more on deck, but hopefully there'll be a sports hour. We'll see who can come in. But yeah, check out whatever programming that comes on. I think there's a new Creeping It Real coming up this Thursday or Friday. So check that out. If you like a little after Halloween spookiness, whatever. But hopefully everybody had a safe Halloween. And, I won a parade for my teams, but I don't think it's ever going to happen again.
Sometime soon. I still want to know what the Padres will do whenever that day may come. Folks, for my final thoughts, I'm going to go a little bit of a different route here, probably one that you probably wouldn't expect someone like me to go down on this now Tuesday, November 5th. But, folks, as we do wrap up tonight, I want to take a quick moment to reflect on something that transcends the scoreboard and the standings. Regardless of whatever may happen on any given day, this may sound like a bro code monologue at the end of their programs, but the sports world will always be there for everyone. I have long said that I've been living by a credo that is simple. In times of crisis, in times of illness, in times of need, in times of natural disasters, in times of unrest, in times of tension, in times of resentment, the sports world and sports are there for you. This is the magic of our world, folks. Doesn't matter our backgrounds or differences. We can all come together in a stadium, in an arena, at a concert venue, and celebrate what we love. We find comfort in the roar of the crowd, the thrill of competition, and the rhythm of singing our favorite songs. Let this be a reminder that even in challenging times that we all may face, we can still all come together and unite for the love of the game, the love of the music, and the entertainment that binds us all together. And that all these experiences bring us together and they transcend our differences. Whenever we gather at the ballpark, at the arena, or at the concert venue, we're not just fans, we're one. one large united community and bounded together by our love for the game, the music, and the shared joy of being together. So with all that said, from all of us here at C2C, for that man, James Gonzales, Callan McClurg is saying good night. We'll see you folks back here next Monday for another round of C2C at night, 10 o'clock p.m. Pacific time back here on C2C. Have a good night. Bye-bye.